Good evening and welcome to the Dollar Dogs and Beer podcast. I am your host, Andrew, and joining me tonight is just Jason. Ron got held up at work, so Ron, if you make it home in time to hop on, feel free, bud. We'll talk to you when you get on here. How you doing, Jason?
Yeah, I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Good. I see we have the appropriate uniforms on for the series starting tonight.
Yeah, big matchup, big series for both teams here.
I'm just glad Ronaldo Lopez's arm hasn't fallen off in his first start back from the IL. Thank God for that.
Yeah, and my hope here is just don't get swept for the Phils. Means you only give up one game.
Yeah.
So that's the goal this week. Just don't get swept.
It's going to be a tough one. You guys have a rough schedule this week, as we'll get into a little bit later. What are you drinking tonight, Jason?
Tonight I am going with Broad Street Brewing's Golden Sipper, which is the Mummer-based beer from the string band I'm a part of, Uptown String Band. So good collaboration there. It's basically it's a lime Mexican style lager. It is absolutely delicious.
Yeah, when you gave us a can to try when it was initially released, I still have it over there in the desk, by the way.
Nice.
That artwork's too beautiful to throw that can out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know we mentioned it last time, but so on the front here, that is actually a former captain of the band. So that's just really cool to have there.
It reminded me so much of like a tan limes, but more limey. So good. And for me tonight from good old Duclaw Brewing Company, the Sour Me America to the Rocket Bomb Pop Sour. It's actually pretty good, not gonna lie.
Nice.
Who would have thought taking a childhood classic like the Bomb Pop and turning it into a sour beer would work out? I certainly didn't. Just one show note. Joe is going to be taking some family time for the rest of the season, especially given I know he's been very frustrated with the Cubbies' performance this year. So he's been really busy, a lot of stuff going on at home right now. So Joe's going to take a little break probably for the rest of the regular season and possibly into the off season. So Joe, take your time, man. We'll see you when you get back.
Yep, we'll hold down the fort. Ron and I, or just me, Joe, we can stand up to Andrew for you.
Yeah, of course you will. All right. Moving into it. Sunday, we had the Little League Classic, one of my favorite yearly traditions that Major League Baseball does. They always play a game in Williamsport during the Little League World Series. Of course, it's played again at Journey Bank Ballpark. They don't play it at the Little League Stadium because that score would probably be somewhere around 487 to 486, especially if you give the big league guys metal bats. So we mentioned this last year, probably just about every year that we do. This is not a general admission game. This is a game for the Little League kids, for their families, for their coaches. And also the players spend a lot of time hanging out with the kids during the day before the game. A bunch of them will go down the hill in the cardboard boxes, all the great traditions. And you got to see Aaron Judge and Juan Soto ask the Little League guys, what's it like to actually play in a World Series, since neither of them have had the opportunity to do so at this point in their careers. It was a really good game, though, Jason. It was a 3-2 Tigers victory in walk-off fashion in the 10th inning during what was an amazing pitcher's duel between Marcus Stroman and Tariq Skubal. This is the first time that the Tigers have had 6 players that are 24 years of age or younger since May 25th, 2015. So the Tigers were a great pick having such a young team to be in this game. And before that, Jason, the Tigers hadn't had 6 starters under 25 since September 30th of 78. So it's not a common occurrence at all. So wow. Really, really neat to see. I know the game's picked months in advance. MLB had no idea it would happen. Just one of those cool happenstances that rolled in like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really cool. It's just a really fun event to see, especially because if you think about it, a lot of these players they're international players, the kids, so they don't get to see a major league game frequently, and them getting to see a game like that, getting to see some MLB in person is just a really cool, fun thing.
Yeah, absolutely. I had such a blast in Little League when I played as a kid, and it, it's just fun to get to see these kids playing at that level because, first of all, those kids are amazing, way better than I ever had a snowball shot in hell at being at that age. And it's awesome that they get to spend some time with some major league players too, because a
Hmm.
lot of these guys, a lot of these players, they're seeing some of their favorite players. Aaron Judge is a very popular pick around the Little League World Series for favorite player, as is Juan Soto. So it's awesome to see that for those guys. Um, so the crazy thing, Jason, so Jace Jung was the one who delivered the game-tying RBI in the ninth. That was his first career RBI. Then in the 10th, he had Zach McKinstry had a pinch hit single. He scored Trey Sweeney. He stole second. Then Parker Meadows brought him home. You got to feel for the Yankees fans watching their bullpen melt down because God knows it's not the first time that's ever happened, not even this season. But to see the
Hmm.
excitement, the fight back, because that was a long game, and it was, if you were a hitter, that was frustrating because Stroman and Skubal were just throwing darts all game until it
Yeah.
got late and the bullpens were brought in. And quote I pulled from AJ Hinch, it was an incredible day in all facets. We got here early, everybody enjoyed it. We went over to hang out with the kids, and then it was a well played game on both sides, well pitched certainly. And then when they scored the run, we just had to try and find a way to scratch and claw, and that's exactly what I did. I'm proud of our group for hanging in there and staying in the fight and pulling out a dramatic win in front of a lot of kids who were awesome to stay in and hang in there for 10 whole innings. And he's not wrong about that. By the end of that game, I'm sure the kids were probably starting to get a little tired, but a game that close, how can you not love watching something like that?
Yeah. I mean, and the Yankees lost, so it's a win all around.
And we'll make sure we don't mention it to Joe that Mark Later Jr. took one of the blown saves and the loss in the game. But actually, Joe probably wouldn't care because Later's gone anyway.
Yeah.
That always a fun game though, and as always, the production value was top notch for that game. So good job by ESPN for not screwing up a game production for once.
Yeah.
Hate to give them props, but you got to give them where it's due. Let's roll into the fantasy update. Week 19 is in the books, and boy, we had a tight one between me and Joe this week. I edged him 14-13. That ran all the way into Sunday. It was a close match. And then let's see here. We had Finding Nemo 16-7 over Ronnie. So and then Jason, this was a huge week for you. You took Tim down 17-10. Bravo.
Yeah, I needed that one. It got me right back up to being on his heels there. I think like half a game back, one game back now.
Half a game.
So yeah, and it was almost was able to pull that comeback off completely because I was up 18-10 or something like that at one point on Sunday. But it was one of those. I realized on Saturday that the pitching matchups were essentially the pitching categories were already basically done. Mm-hmm. Like the ones that I was losing, I could not catch, and the ones that I was winning, I could give up. So I just benched my pitchers for the last 2 days to just clinch those pitching categories and was able to steal a few of the offensive categories there.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to be strategic and not throw everybody out there. I mean, I did that I remember last year, it was one of the last weeks in the season. I saw Ron couldn't catch me, so I didn't risk it. And I'm glad I didn't, because had I left a couple pitchers in that I had benched, they got shelled.
Yeah.
And I might have actually lost that week.
Well, and like it wouldn't have hurt me in the long run, but when you see that your opponent has 8 quality starts and was like 10-2 with his pitchers, I'm like, I stand no chance at this, so I'm just gonna not risk losing because I had ERA. I'm like, I'm not gonna risk losing ERA. So
yeah, and Tim's had good pitching all year. That has been the hardest thing about beating Tim in a weekly matchup and he started a little slow, but boy, his pitching has been fire probably the last 2.5 months.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's climbed all the way to the top. Looking at the rest of the standings, Tim is still holding the lead over you by just a half a game. So that one's going to be close to the end. I'm now pretty well locked into the third spot at 9.5 out. Todd's at 14 out. Joe is right on his heels, though, at 15.5 games back. And, of course, Ron is long eliminated, although Ron climbed back from 43-some back to 35.5 games back. So, I mean, he's trying.
I mean, better than the 100-plus games back he ended up last year.
Hey, you got to take your wins where you can.
Yeah, and this is where we wait for the comment of, yeah, but who won?
I mean, as much as I hate to admit it, he took you and me down in pretty humiliating fashion in the playoffs. Our teams took the 2 worst weeks of the year last year to just not show up. So,
sure did.
What can we do? So playoffs are what, 2 weeks out until we hit playoffs?
I think there's 3 left. Let's see here.
We go in week 23 for playoffs, I think.
Let's take a look.
I know we stop a little bit early because I hate it when nobody decides to play. Yeah, week 23 is week 1, week 24 is week 2. So September 9th is playoffs. So we have, I think, 2 weeks left.
Okay.
So it's still time for it's Joe and Todd are fighting pretty hard for that last spot. And I'm just going to look at the matchups coming up over the last couple of weeks. I believe they do have a head-to-head matchup coming up. So that'll be that actually might even be this week. No, it's not this week. Joe's got Ron this week, so Joe's got a chance to make some waves. Next week's Joe and Tim. No, Joe and you is next week, and it's Todd and Tim next week. Okay. So there's still time to move. And then, okay, so I've got Todd the last regular season, Joe as Tim, and you've got Ron. Okay, so that'll be all.
And there he is.
Hey, Fantasy Champ has joined the chat. Hey, Fantasy Champ, how about you get home and join the regular show too?
I would say he's got to say Fantasy Champ as much as he can, because that's not going to be come a couple of weeks. That's not going to be a thing anymore for him.
Nope, he's got a couple weeks left to revel in his title, and then it's gone. If I'm not mistaken, didn't he have a hat made up or something that he's not going to be able to wear for a year now because he won't be the fantasy champ anymore?
I don't remember that, but I do know that, Ron, I don't know if you're still listening or not, but we did decide last week that if you end up in last, the punishment is you'll have to wear the one of Andrew's Braves hats on the show.
I was nice. I was nice. I said a hat, not a jersey.
If I win out, I could take 4th.
I mean, that's true. Mathematically, he is not. He's not eliminated. He does have a chance. It's not a good chance, but he's not mathematically eliminated from playoff contention. Boy, wouldn't that be one hell of a run? That would be insane to go this late, to go from worst to 4th to get into the playoff.
Mm-hmm.
My dad hopping on nice shirts tonight. Yeah, hey, we didn't pre-plan it, but you know what? It worked out really well. At least we went with the neutral hats tonight. Looking at some major fantasy injuries. Once again, Atlanta's team cannot get out of its way with the injury bug. Austin Riley is out 6 to 8 weeks. Fractured wrist after a hit by pitch. When you get hit by a 97-mile-an-hour pitch, it just kind of tends to happen. Human bones were not built to withstand that. He's pretty much, you can say, out for the regular season. If the Braves make the playoffs, which as of going on to the show tonight, they are still in a wild card position, he does have a chance to make it back in the playoffs. The Orioles and their bad luck Bears pitching rotation took yet another hit. Zach Eflin is down 15-day IL with a right shoulder inflammation. Now, from everything I was reading, though, Eflin is not expected to be out. Not expected to be out long term, so we'll see about that. They're hoping just the 2 starts and back. Reds utility man, third base, first base, DH, Yeimer Candelario, 10-day IL with a fractured left big toe. I did not see how long he's expected to be out, but for fantasy players, especially in those larger leagues, it sucks when you lose a flex guy like that. Mm-hmm. Jason, any other injuries?
I think you covered them all.
My dad asked, will I wash the hat? That's important. Probably not. And
I'll say doubtful.
And Ron, no, if Tim,
That's not a thing.
We're not wearing the Mets hat if Tim wins out.
No,
this is what you have to pay to get that first overall pick next year that you've been tanking hard for.
Exactly.
Only if it's a Bonds. Oh man, a Bonds hat, you know. Good grief. All right. So moving on from fantasy, we had Players Weekend this past weekend. It's been a yearly tradition for a while there. And this past weekend, they didn't make any god awful one off jerseys that they've done in previous years. The hats, they tweaked them slightly. It's the regular hats. They had numbers on the player's number on the side of the hat and some funky fonts. Unfortunately, all of the number fonts were the same colors for each digit, which made the numbers hard to read sometimes. Like the number 5 was like this bluish red color with a red outline and almost disappeared into the Phillies hat. So if you were a Phillies player and you had number 5, it was almost impossible to read. Let's see here. And then some of the cool, the biggest thing I like this year, Jason, they did custom bats and custom cleats. Some really cool bat, and some of the bats were like charity related. One of the Phillies players was had the Philly daycare decorated bat. I didn't happen to see who that was. I think you said it might have been Bohm or Strom, perhaps. Jackson Merrill had probably the coolest bat of everybody with the glow in the dark Star Wars lightsaber bat. Harrison Bader had the pink crayon. There was a Buzz Lightyear bat. Twins Ryan Jeffers had a home run with the pencil bat, although I think I saw there were like 4 or 5 pencil bats this year. I know the Phillies made that popular last year. Mm-hmm. Michael Harris, he had 2 really cool looking bats, a Spider-Man and a Toy Story themed bat with the it was more of a Woody style bats, and somebody else did Buzz Lightyear. A bunch of cool cleats. My favorite cleats that I saw were Tom and Jerry, Tom on one foot, Jerry on the other. So when he was running, it looked like Tom was chasing after Jerry. So that was pretty sweet. This is my kind of celebration. You don't need to do anything stupid with the uniforms. You don't need the player nicknames on the back or anything like that. Most of which kind of felt forced anyway, to be completely honest. Yeah. I like the hats. You don't even need to do the silly font on the side. You can just do regular hats. It's fine. But keep doing the bats and cleats. Those are awesome. Did Harper do anything Fanatics themed this weekend? I know he does that a lot.
I don't think he did anything Fanatic themed, but a couple things here. So Stott, Bowman, Marsh all had daycare bats. Bohm had one. His nickname is Raffy because they say he looks like a giraffe. So his looked like the reticulated pattern of a giraffe. And one of Harper's bats that I saw, which was really cool, he actually had kids color it and decorate it. So his bat was basically just designed by kids.
That's really cool. And there were quite a few players that had kid designed bats, and I'm really hoping a lot of it was for players featuring their charities that they do. So I know Matt Olson, I don't know if he did this year, he did it last year. Olson has an autism awareness foundation that he funds and works with, and his bat last year featured that. I didn't see what he had this year, but I love it when players do that to do outreach for their foundation, or if they have a special kid in mind that they were thinking of when they did it. That's my favorite. It ties in so nicely too with the Little League game. I love seeing the players give back to the kids. It just makes it a great time. And like I said, don't do anything with the uniforms again, please. Do it like this for the rest of players' weekends, because this was pretty sweet to watch. All right. So, Jason, I believe as you and I were mentioning over the weekend, you were probably going to have a little bit of a rant for Read the Room tonight since Joe's not going to be on. And you said you'd happily take up that mantle for this week. So I'll just turn you loose and let you go ahead, bud.
Yeah. So my Read the Room this week is actually for Rob Thompson. In the game against the Nationals on Sunday, the tying run was coming to the plate, and instead of pinch hitting Bryce Harper or JT Realmuto, two guys who did not start the game, he instead let AAA player Cal Stevenson take the at bat, and he promptly grounded into a double play, killing the rally. And then the next batter, Garrett Stubbs, grounded out to end the game. We are at the point of the season where you need to try to win the game. It's absolutely mind-blowing, especially because they were off yesterday because they were traveling to Atlanta while Atlanta was coming back from Los Angeles. And after the game, naturally, reporters asked Thompson about that, and you knew what the response was going to be, and it absolutely was the response that we expected. I wanted to give them a full day off. One at bat and one time rounding the bases is not going to ruin an off day.
No.
Now I understand some people will be saying something to the effect of, well, what if he gets hit on the hand by a pitch and breaks his hand, like Austin Riley, or what if he's running down to first base and pulls the hamstring again? I understand that, but in the moment, you need to try to win a game. You have momentum. You've already taken 3 out of 4 from the Nationals team, and you know you have to go on a road trip to Atlanta and Kansas City. You need to try to keep as much momentum as possible. Letting Cal Stevenson hit in that situation, inducing an inning and rally-killing double play, completely killed all momentum that team had going into that off day. And I just don't understand, like, managers need to be smarter. Topper, you need to be smarter. You need to actually try to win these games instead of having a scheduled loss.
Yeah, and the thing with the Nationals, they're not a good team yet, but the young talent is there and it's starting to rise. Like, their window is going to start to crack open, I think, in the next 2 to 3 seasons, that they're going to be potentially contenders for the NL East, even as Atlanta and Philly's windows are still open. Like, we saw that this weekend, that those Nationals players, they're starting to get scrappy. That's a series you can't afford to lose. That's not the time to be resting. I get it. Playoff push is coming, and you want people healthy in September, but one at bat, man. One at bat, trot the bases once. And if it goes to extras and you want to pull them out in extras to preserve as much of the day off as, okay, that's fine. I'm okay with that. But why would you willingly give up on the game when you had a decent shot at attempting a rally to win it? Yeah. And I get it. I get pinch hitting's hard. Like, a lot of the best hitters suck at pinch hitting because they're not used to sitting on the bench for 8 innings and then coming in and being an impact bat. And I get that too, but I stop worrying about injuries.
Yeah. Like, I mean, and maybe Harper would have gone into the same type of double play. The thing is, you need to find out what would happen. Like, you cannot let a AAA player go to the plate with the game on the line when you have your superstar player on the bench.
Yeah, that was dumb as hell. I mean, I'm happy for the loss. I was happy to get the half game back in the standings, but good God, it was dumb as hell.
And I mean, they still, like, they took 3 out of 4. Like, I'm not upset about the result of the series, but you have to try to win games. You're at late August now. You have just over a month left in the season. You have to try to win these games now at the end of the season.
Great question from my dad here. Do you think it's valuable to think about a 1-in-162 game? What do you think, Jason?
In this situation, it's one at bat. It's not just one game. It's even smaller than that. It's one at bat. Now, if it was a game that was maybe out of hand or something like that, then yeah, it's 1-162. And ultimately, this loss shouldn't make a difference. There are other games besides this that the Phils should have won but lost. But you're at the point of the season where you need to make sure that you're trying to win these games.
Mm-hmm. And it's 7 games, I think, going into tonight's game. I think you have a 7-game lead.
Yep, 7.
7 games is you're not quite comfortable yet, although with Atlanta's injuries, I mean, that's probably effectively going to be safe. But we've seen teams, I'll admit it doesn't happen often. We've seen teams blow double-digit leads in September because they took the pedal off the gas when they shouldn't have, perhaps in August and even earlier. I hate to keep harping on the White Sox, but I'm going to harp on the White Sox. Tony La Russa took his foot off the gas in 21, a team that should have gone all the way to the World Series that year. And he took off the gas right after the All-Star break. The White Sox coasted to the end, and they fell apart early in the playoffs.
Yeah. I mean, and your dad even brings up a good point, like even look at the Mets.
Yeah.
Like 7 games is comfortable, but uncomfortable at the same time.
Yeah. That's not a safe amount until it's September 28th.
Right. And I'm looking at it too, where if you look at the schedules, the Phils have a tougher schedule. I think I looked, and out of their last, it's 38 games now that are left, something like that. 25 or 30 of them, or something like that, are against winning teams with a winning record.
Let's see here.
So
let's see this series, the next series, because it's the Royals. The Astros have a winning record. You have Atlanta again. Toronto's your first break, your first sub 500 break. That's 4 straight series, and Toronto's only a 2-game. Then you have Miami for 4, Tampa Bay for 3, but Tampa Bay is always a wild card when you hit September, even when they're bad. Then you have the Mets, the Brewers, the Mets, the Cubs, and the Nationals. So the Cubs and Nationals, who knows what you're going to get. But, you're sandwiched with a tough road to the end.
Yeah.
One of the toughest.
Yeah. I mean, and that we were talking about that early on in the season when the Phils were really beating up on the sub 500 teams. They were getting the wins they needed. And this is why they had to win those games. This is why they had to build that cushion, because the second half is going to be a grind.
Yeah. One of the most brutal second half schedules I think I've ever seen one team get foisted. Every team's going to have easy runs, hard runs. I don't think I've ever seen a schedule quite where it was all the easy stuff in the first half, all the hard stuff. That's wild. What can you do?
Yeah, you got to play your schedule and just have to play winning baseball.
Yeah. So, but yeah, Jason, I'm with you on the rant 100%. I don't like the move. I would have put Harper in there. I would have put JT in there. You don't want to give up a game that you have a chance to win.
Yeah.
All right, moving it on. The White Sox last week, they had an absolutely laughable 12-2 beatdown of the Yankees in a matchup of the best record and the worst record in baseball. Per Elias Sports Bureau, this is the first time since September 27th, 1934, that a team with the worst record in baseball defeated the team with the best record in baseball by 10 or more runs in July or later. And by the way, Jason, that team in 1934 was also the White Sox, who beat the Tigers 11-0. That's the only 2 times that's happened in the past 100 years. So, damn.
That's crazy.
They're still awful. They still have a chance to take a run at the losing streak record, but that's baseball. Sometimes it happens like that. All right, so stepping in for Joe, looking at the Cubs. It's been a little bit of a tough stretch again for the Cubs. They had a good week last week. They took 2 out of 3 from the Twins. They swept the White Sox, which, as Joe said last week, he was sweating bullets that the White Sox broke the streak before they got the Cubs. And then they ran into Cleveland, and Cleveland turned that into a meat grinder. They lost 2 more one-run games. They lost 9-8, 2-1, and then 6-1 to get swept. And then they did take, I will say this, they took 2 out of 3 from Toronto, but once again, 3 one-run games. They did take 2 of them, 1 in 10 innings, and then they lost another one-run game. Here's the problem the Cubs are having this year, among many problems, and Joe has eloquently pointed so many of them out. The Cubs can't win one-run games this year. Last year, their record in one-run games was 21-24. Not great, but it's close to 500 at least. This year, they are down to 17-25. Why does Jed Hoyer still have a job? You see,
I don't know that he will for much longer, honestly.
He shouldn't. He shouldn't have had a job this offseason.
I agree. I'm thinking this offseason you potentially see a change in the front office there.
You have to. You can't fire counsel. He's only a year in. And I'm never a fan of firing a manager or a coach after 1 year unless something was so catastrophically wrong that – but you can't get rid of counsel this quick.
Mm-mm.
So let's look at the underlying cause, because you had a problem last year. You did nothing to correct the problem, and it is now worse this year.
Exactly.
The Cubbies are barely holding a positive run differential. They're at +4. Now, their expected win-loss records at 63-62. They're at 61-64. So they've had a little bit of bad luck there. But here's the thing: they're winning in Wrigley. They're losing on the road pretty badly, 27-36. And they're 35-40 against teams over 500 because, again, they can't pull off these one-run games. And I just don't get it. How can you be this oblivious as a general manager that you let it go like this? He's been there long enough. He knows that roster inside and out. He needs to go.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, this team is too good to be this bad. And yeah, it has to be Hoyer's time.
No point in keeping him. Now, you want to hear something funny, though? The Cubs are one of the best interleague teams this year. They're 23-14 in interleague play. How make it make sense? Because it doesn't. Yeah. But yeah, I know Joe has enunciated this point many times, and will do it in his absence. Jed Hoyer needs to go. He is the biggest problem with this team right now. I know the first year of the council has not been everything they were hoping for, but council's not the problem. Although he does need to, he does need to step it up when there's be a little more fiery. Protect your players. That's why Bobby Cox got the results he did out of his players. He wasn't afraid to go out there and get ejected to fire his team up or to protect his players. Has council been ejected this year more than like 5 times?
I don't think so.
You know this well. Charlie Manuel, same thing. Charlie got 110% out of those players because they knew Charlie had their back, and he wasn't afraid to go out there and get his ass tossed out of a game if he thought it would either fire up the team or if it was going to be to protect one of his stars.
Yep, absolutely. And I will go to the grave saying it was a crime the way that the Phils let him go.
Absolutely.
Because it was not his fault.
No, not at all. He had worse injury luck than we're having this year, and you can't predict that.
Yep.
All right. So last Thursday night, as a late Father's Day present for my dad, because they were away on vacation this year over Father's Day, we took my dad to a Barnstormers game, and it was a great time. I love going down to that stadium, even though the field is just a joke now. But in the middle of the game, towards the end of the game, we had a brawl breaking out. I didn't take video of it, but it looked like it might be just we're gonna get together and talk, maybe yell and scream and shove a little bit, and then right over here around second base, the guy just coming into the screen on the left there, and our guy coming in from the right. Those are the two that initiated the fisticuffs. So what happened in that game, Jason? It was a good game. First of all, the Stormers lost in extras, but the pitchers that was in, oh God, who were we? We were playing the boxcars.
So I think it was the boxcars.
Yeah, it would. No, where
flying
flying
boxcars.
boxcars.
Hagerstown.
Hagerstown. Thank you. So I was like, Havre de Grace. No, they don't have a Hagerstown. Other H. Other H. So the Stormers had come back from 4 down, 2-run home run, and another 2-run home run to tie it. Next guy gets plunked right in the side. Like this was not I lost control in a pitch inside, as the pitcher's been getting visibly frustrated because he pitched really well the first inning in the third. He was brought in, but he was wearing out because it's the Atlantic League. They let the pitchers go a little longer. No point in blowing through your bullpen. And the next pitch drilled him right in the side. Like, come on. It was a 92-mile-an-hour fastball, which was one of the fastest fastballs that guy threw all night. This was not a you lost control. The umpires even got together, didn't warn anybody, didn't throw him out. The inning ends. He turns around and says, I don't know if he said something to the Stormers guy walking across the field or to the umpire, but the third base ump who was covering second because the runner on was that he immediately tossed him, which, again, the hell didn't you do that right after he hit the guy, because that was the appropriate time to do it. He starts to walk back towards his own dugout. I don't know if he was going to get his bag or something or what, but the home plate umpire intercepts him and starts escorting him off because there's no locker room for them to go to. They have to go back to the buses. And as he's walking past, the Stormers players are coming onto the field, and tensions are high because their guy just got nailed. And he starts chirping. The bench is clear. It looked like it was going to resolve, and then those two guys started swinging, and it turned into a full Donnybrook. And it's been a long time since I've seen a good fight in a minor league baseball game, and that was a good one. I'm not going to lie. But the umpires completely lost control of that game. If you throw the guy out right away on what was clearly a purpose pitch, I'm sorry, you just gave up 2 2-run home runs and blew the game, and then the next guy gets hit, and you're gonna try and tell me that was an accident? No, it wasn't. That's bullshit if you believe that was an accident. The umpires completely lost control of the game, and that's what's going to happen. So the Stormers did end up losing it in the 10th inning in extras, but it was a good time. I still hate the turf field. I will never not hate the turf field. I really hate the lack of a dirt infield because that's dumb as hell. And then the fact that there is no dirt on the mound, I wouldn't want to pitch there, to be completely honest with you. I would be too worried about my spike getting caught trying to pitch off that stupid thing. Just bring back dirt. Even if you want to leave the god-awful, ugly fucking turf field, bring back the dirt infield and bring back the dirt mound, please. Pretty please. I don't think I'm asking too much.
But then it's not removable. The mound is portable, Andrew. The mound can be taken off the field.
Yeah, you can do that with you can make a portable dirt mound too. Lots of teams do it. It's not that hard.
I also noticed, I don't know if you noticed this at the games that you've been to, but it's funny because now that literally the entire thing is turf, they don't have a tarp.
No,
there's no tarp down the lines because there's no need for it.
Yeah, why would you? It's a pity because it's such a beautiful stadium, and they had to get rid of that beautiful field. And I know I'm not in the turf grass industry anymore like I was, but I still feel for the groundskeepers that got laid off because they probably laid off 3/4 of the staff when they did it.
Yeah, nothing needs watered. You just have. I doubt they even have to do the chalk lines either.
Nope, that's painted. Yep, it's permanently on there. So
put in the bases and you're good to go.
Yeah, you need 2 people now. That's ridiculous. But it was a good time though. And as my dad points out, there is very little like the taste of a stadium cheeseburger. As he would know from his many years of going to different stadiums for marching bands, he knows where the best cheeseburgers are. I can tell you that.
If he's listening, I'll be curious to hear which ballpark and or like football stadium that he's ever been to had the best cheeseburger. I'll just be curious to know that.
I'll bet Manheim Central's up there because their food's always really good. Hopefully he's still on, and if not, I'll ask him and I'll reveal it next week. All right, Jason, let's move on to Down on the Farm.
Yeah, Down on the Farm. So this week, I wasn't going to give the Braves any props, any kudos because of the matchup that we have this week, but it was hard to go against the hitter of the week here for me. So Alejo Lopez of the Gwinnett Stripers, the AAA team for the Braves, he went 12 for 22, which is a 545 average, 2 doubles, 2 triples, no home runs, but he had 9 RBI. Like if he was in the majors, this would be a perfect money ball scenario for Joe.
Yeah.
And this includes a game on August 15th against Norfolk. He went 5 for 6. So he had a really great week. And then the pitcher of the week here is Ethan Bosacker of the Quad Cities River Bandits, the High A affiliate for the Kansas City Royals.
The River Bandits. I love
the
that.
River Bandits. He went 1-0 this week, 7 innings pitched, 2 hits, no earned runs, no walks, and 12 strikeouts.
That's a good week.
Yeah.
All right. So that's Down on the Farm this week. MLB just released their midseason prospect rankings update, so that way they could get the drafted players in there and see how the players that were already ranked, how they're doing. I was looking over Atlanta's list. I was not surprised to see Cam Caminiti. Let's say Ken Caminiti. That's a flashback. He was Atlanta's number 1 overall pick. He is now their number 1 overall prospect, so he immediately is making waves. So AJ Smith-Shawver is now number 2. Still not a bad place to be. I know in the overall top 100, Atlanta doesn't have anybody in there currently. And I know Paul Skeens is no longer the number 1 because he is matriculated off the list. It's back to, I believe it's back to Jackson Holiday again, if I saw right. But he won't be on there for the rest of it. He'll be on for the rest of this year, but off it for the start of next year. I was not at all surprised to see that Hurston Waldrop's still on there. Who's the guy I'm thinking of that Atlanta brought up that made a couple spot starts and got shelled? Anyway, he started the year number 14 due to his lack of performance in the major and minor league levels when being sent down. He has fallen all the way off the list. You don't often see somebody go from the mid-level of the list to off the list in a half a season, but congratulations, you have done that. I think all of Atlanta's drafted players did make the top 30 somewhere, so it's credit to Atlanta's scouting department doing a good job in the draft, finding high quality talent. I'm not surprised Atlanta doesn't have anybody in the overall top 100 right now. Again, most of our top prospects are either up or are very low in the minors. Caminiti's at rookie ball right now. Shawver and Waldrop are both at AAA. Nacho's at AAA, although he only just moved up there. He spent most of the year in AA. So it's good to see that there. But I can also point out very much so. I'll look down this list. Most of those players are rookie and single A and a couple AA guys. So I'm not upset by not having anybody in the top 100. Do you notice anything about the Phillies' updated rankings, Jason?
The main thing that I noticed is I believe he was their first round pick, Aiden Miller. He has debuted at the number 1 spot. He is currently listed as the Phillies' top overall prospect. Andrew Painter, who was the number 1, has dropped down to number 2. Mm-hmm. And then at third, you have Justin Crawford, an outfielder, the son of Carl Crawford.
Dude, he is clips. Holy crap!
He is a fast dude. I'm excited for all of those 3, and then everybody else here, not a whole lot. They do have a catching prospect, Eduardo Tait. It's spelled Tait, but I heard them pronounce it Tait. Catching prospect, he is in there at number 5. So some good prospects in there.
We actually have a prospect at 5 too, Drake Baldwin. Nice.
Okay. So So Yeah, I'm liking that list there. And thing to keep in mind here is Dombrowski. While I wanted him to make moves, I still think he should have made more moves. He did keep Miller, Painter, and Crawford in the system, which is good.
Here's the thing, Jason. I don't think you were on for that episode. There wasn't a lot available. And what was available was extremely high cost. I'm actually I said it on that show after the trade deadline. I was okay that Andopoulos didn't really go much harder than he did because the asking price, the team, because there were not a lot of sellers because so many teams were on the cusp of wild card contention this year. There were not a lot of sellers, and they were asking insane costs for rental players. I'm kind of okay that Atlanta, especially now that the injuries keep mounting, I'm really okay that they didn't go harder at the trade deadline. And I know you were definitely hoping for some more, especially an actual impact bat in the outfield, because that's not what you got in your trade with the Orioles. No. But there really wasn't one. And I guess the best one would have been Arozarena, and he has not been great since he got to Seattle.
I'd argue that Luis Robert would have been there.
But again, the cost.
I mean, you don't know when prospects will pan out. If you have the chance to acquire a bat to help you win now, you have to try and compete now.
I don't disagree with that, but Robert I know he's done well since being traded, but Robert has not been good this year.
He wasn't traded. You're thinking of
who am I thinking of that the White Sox dumped?
It wasn't Robert though.
It'll hit me in the middle of the night. Anyway, I know there have been guys definitely from the White Sox in particular that the change of scenery has helped, but I don't know. I agree with that to a point where I don't mind the trading of prospects to get those impact guys when the impact guys are there and the cost is not exorbitant. Oh, Joe just popped on quick. Eloy Jimenez.
Yeah, Eloy Jimenez.
Thanks, Joe. All right. So let's move it on. So I've got two trivia questions for you. One is a field-based trivia, and one is an all-star game-based trivia. What do you want first?
It doesn't matter.
We'll do the field first because this is a fun one. So do you know what the term keyhole mound means?
Keyhole mound.
Yes.
I've never heard that term before.
Okay, a keyhole mound is where you have where you have the mound, and then there's the dirt path from the mound back to home plate.
Okay.
There's only one of them left in the league. Which ballpark is it in?
Arizona.
Nope.
Ah.
That was my first guess too. It's not Arizona.
It's not Fenway.
Nope.
Not Oakland. Which league am I going to?
American League.
American League.
And the
Detroit?
Yes, Comerica. They are the last stadium in baseball that has that keyhole from home plate out to the pitcher's mound.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'll be curious to know when is it Citi Field? Not Citi Field. Chase Field. I'll be curious to know when Chase Field got rid of theirs because that was one that they absolutely had one up until I would think fairly recently.
I know they didn't last year during the World Series, but I think you're right. When they opened, they did have it, but I don't.
Yeah, I know they absolutely did have it when they opened.
Let's see. They did have it as recent as 2017. On Wikipedia, there is a picture of a Diamondbacks Rockies game where it was still there. So it's fairly recent that they got rid of it. So within probably the last 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
All right. And then the other trivia question for tonight, we're going to go all the way back to the 2002 All-Star game, which is notable because it was the last time we had a tie because both teams ran out of pitchers. And Bud Selig made an idiotic decision from that. What an idiot. I don't miss that guy one bit. Who were the starting pitchers in those games for the American League and the National League teams?
2002. I have to think about that one. CC Sabathia?
No.
Okay.
He was not one of the pitchers in that game.
Are you able to give me the teams? Because there are going to be way too many pitchers to choose from.
One was Diamondbacks, and one was, hold on, I have to see who was pitching for. One was the Red Sox.
Was the Diamondbacks Randy Johnson?
Not Johnson.
Schilling?
Okay.
Red Sox, that was probably right around Derek Lowe time.
Derek Lowe, that's it.
Nice.
And fun fact, the last pitcher of the game for the National League was a Philly. Do you remember who?
2002. Good Lord. Because that was just not a good team either.
No, he wasn't a particularly great pitcher. Although he went 14-11 that year, 3.28 ERA. Not a terrible year.
Millwood?
Not Millwood.
Who?
Vicente Padilla.
Okay, the Padilla Flotilla. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. All right. And if Ron was here, I was going to have you guys try to name one of the rosters, but I'll be nice. We'll just leave the pitchers.
Good Lord.
Maybe I'll pick a more recent team, or I'll pick a more recent year for that instead.
I could probably get a few. Like, I don't know that I could name the entire starting lineup or whatever, but
those were some damn good teams that year. I'll just throw you a couple names quick.
Well, I'm gonna let me see if I can get some of. Let me see how many of the AL I can get.
All right, go ahead.
All right, so we had Derek Lowe as the pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna guess Ichiro was in there as an outfielder.
Lead off, yep, and right.
You probably also had Torrey Hunter in center field.
Yes, Torrey Hunter started center.
That was right around peak Manny Ramirez, so Manny in left field.
Let me see here. Yes, Manny started in left. Sorry, it was in a National League park, so the box score is kind of a mess with the pitchers.
Okay. We already know Derek Lowe there. A-Rod?
A-Rod was the starting shortstop.
Oh, shortstop, third base.
Third base. If you get third base, I will be shocked.
I probably will not get third base. It's going to be. Give me third base.
It was the Red Sox starting third baseman that year.
Hillenbrand?
Yep, Shea Hildenbrand.
Okay.
Very nice.
Gosh, that's a random name too. So who do I need? I need catcher first and second.
Yes.
Catcher around that time was probably going to be Jorge.
Yep. First baseman was a Yankee.
So Giambi.
Yep. And second baseman was also a Yankee that year. Well, he's better known for his time with the Cubs than he is his time with the Yankees.
Alfonso Soriano.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. So I tell you, why don't we move into the National League side, because now I'm just curious.
I knew I'd draw you in. All right. So National League. Yeah, go ahead.
We know we have Schilling as pitcher.
Yep.
I'm gonna guess probably Mike Piazza as catcher.
Yes.
Probably Barry Bonds in the outfield there.
Left field, yes.
Okay.
No DH.
No DH. So Slam and Sammy?
Slam and Sammy on right.
The other outfielder.
Oh, I don't normally think of him as a center fielder. Okay.
What team?
Would have been the Expos, which should be a dead giveaway.
Wow, Vladdy.
Vlad
Vlad
Senior.
Senior.
Yep. I always think of him as a right fielder. But
third base was probably Scott Rowland.
Correct.
So I need short, second, and first.
Yes, you need your infield. Second baseman, I'll be surprised if you get. You should be able to get the others, though.
Okay. Did Jimmy make it that year? Jimmy Rollins?
Yeah. My favorite Philly, Jimmy Rollins, was the shortstop.
Okay.
How can you not love that guy?
So the first baseman is one that I should get.
Yes.
The team will probably be a get dead giveaway, but what's the team?
Colorado.
Todd Helton.
Yeah. If you get the second baseman's the tough one. He was an Expo, which might help but might not.
The only Expo I would be able to name from that time is Vlad Senior. you can just give me the name for that one.
Jose Vidro.
Jose Vidro. Oh my God.
Yep.
Oh man. Hey, that wasn't too bad.
You did really well. I'm quite impressed, actually.
The good thing is a few of those guys were ones who were good for so many years that if you think about the era, like you have a fairly good chance. But it's almost like how one of my strengths is like who won the different World Series in the different years.
It is very hard to stump you in.
and if you have a year, like you can kind of think through like who dominated the decades and have a good estimate. And 27 times you'll have the Yankees. So
yeah, as much as it pains us to admit it, it does help that.
It does.
All right. And then, so moving it on, one of the most ridiculous rule changes I heard that MLB is considering in quite some time.
So are we just getting over the Phillies?
What's up?
Are we just skipping over the Phillies, or did you move them down somewhere?
Yeah, I moved them after this, before milestones. Sorry, I gave you.
Gotcha.
Do you want to do the Phillies now, quick?
Oh no, that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't miss that part.
No. I moved them and didn't send you the updated sheet. That's on me.
Gotcha.
All right. So, in one of the most ridiculous changes I've heard MLB want to consider. They want to re-raise the priority of starting pitchers by requiring them to go 6 innings a game. Because starting pitching is at the lowest amount per inning that it's been in a very long time. 2014 starting pitchers averaged just under 6 innings a start at 5.97. This season, we are at 5.25 innings per start, and in AAA, it's even lower, actually, at 4.3 innings a start. So MLB is looking at ways to try and force the starters to stay in longer. Some things that they've discussed, limiting the size of pitching staffs, the double hook DH. But the big thing would be requiring pitchers to go at least 6 innings when they take the mound. I think it's a terrible idea, personally. There will, of course, be exceptions. You can't just say you have to go 6 innings or bust. 3 possible instances that they would allow a starter to leave early. Number 1, already hitting 100 pitches. Number 2, giving up 4 more earned runs. And number 3, getting injured, but with the required injured list stint to avoid manipulation. I've got so many problems with this, Jason. First of all, they already made a radical change for pitchers by forcing the damn pitch clock on us last year. And then cutting back the time that pitchers have when you have runners on base this year after only 1 year, which to me I think is absolutely insane. And I think is at least partially responsible for the rise in pitching injuries this year because the pitchers don't have time to let their arms recover between these max effort pitches.
Mm-hmm.
So you're telling me my guy can be on the mound, take a comebacker to the face, be pulled out because you should pull somebody out after they get hit in the face with the baseball, and then I would be required to put him on the IL to avoid manipulation of the rules when he got nailed on national TV in the face with the baseball. What? That's dumb as hell.
Yeah. My main problem with it is you're going to be getting fatigue later in the season. Pitchers already get fatigued midway through the season. Forcing them to go 6 each time is going to increase the fatigue, which is going to increase injury potential. And they're messing with the game too much as it is.
Yeah.
And honestly, like if I have a guy who's pitched 5+ innings, and say my team is up 1-0, and there's runners on first and second, and the guy's at 90 pitches, I'm not going to risk giving up that lead just so he can throw 10 more pitches.
Right.
You know, if the object is to win the game, that's where the strategy comes into play with the managers. So forcing pitchers to go 6 innings takes out strategy. It takes away responsibility of managers to try to win games.
Mm-hmm. So basically,
and what about spot starts? What about like you have a person go down with injury one day, and you need to have a bullpen person or a minor leaguer come up and pitch a game. You're not going to force a long reliever to go 6 innings when they're only used to going 2 or 3,
maybe 4 at the most.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot that's wrong with this.
How about a doubleheader when you get to bring when you're allowed an extra man on the roster? It's 99% of the time teams grab an extra pitcher because you need that in a doubleheader. So you're telling me if I bring up, let's say I bring up Smith Shawver from AAA to make a spot start the second game of a doubleheader, you're going to force me to keep him in 6 innings when he might have just pitched 4 or 5 days ago, but he was the best option I had in the minors to bring up to cover an active roster spot.
Mm-hmm.
So even though he just pitched, you're going to force me to make that choice that I have to leave him out there to either get shelled or I have to leave him out there until the point that he gets to that 100. And no, that is ridiculous. I really hope that this doesn't turn it, because remember, they already made major changes before that before the pitch clock, even when they said relievers needed to either end the inning or face a minimum of 2 batters.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. I understand you want to feel like starters are where they should be doing what they need to, but this is not the way to do it.
Right.
Maybe do something that actually, this is a radical suggestion, I understand. Let's do something that helps the fucking pitchers for a change. Let's stop making changes that only benefit the batters. Because that's what all of these changes that have been made over the last couple of years, it's all been to drive the offense.
Mm-hmm.
You drive the offense and pitchers are going to be getting hit more.
Yep.
Who would have thought the correlation on that one?
Yeah. Offense sells tickets.
It's idiotic. Of all the suggestions I've ever heard come out of the commissioner's office since Rob Manfred took over, and I thought the pitch clock was a terrible idea, this might be the worst idea yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a pretty damn special spot to be at. All I'm going to say is let's hope this is just something that they're talking about and ends up never making it, because let's be realistic. It is something that would have to be tested in the lower minors before we would even sniff it in the majors. So that means at least 2 to 4 years minimum, but still.
Yeah.
That's taking control of the game out of the manager's hands, and that's not right.
Exactly.
Not right at all. All right, so that's my pseudo read the room rant. What about them Phillies?
Yeah, the Phils had a good week last week. They went 4-2. They split a 2-game series with the Marlins, 1-1. They lost Tuesday night when I was there with my mom, 5-0. But then they bounced back the next night, winning 9-5.
Let's be real. You were due for a couple losses anyway. You had too hot of a start of the year. So
yeah. And then that game, they were down 5-2 before Schwarber hit a grand slam. And then they just kind of piled on a little bit from there. And then against the Nationals, they did what they needed to do. They took 3 out of 4. They won 13-3. In that game, Weston Wilson became the 10th Phillies. Well, the 9th Philly, but the 10th cycle in team history. First rookie for the team to hit a cycle.
Damn.
And then they won. So they won that game 13-3. Then they won 3-2 with a walk-off hit by Trey Turner in the bottom of the 9th. And then they won 5-1 before losing 4-6 in the game we talked about a little bit earlier in my Read the Room rant. So I said last week they needed to go at least 4-2, and they did exactly that. And that was actually kind of what I was thinking they would end up doing, was split the 2-gamer and take 3. So it was a good week. Both of the losses were Taijuan Walker starts. Not surprising.
Who would have thought Taijuan Walker would be the I'm sorry. I tried to get through it, man. I tried to get through that with a straight face, but you just can't.
He's just so bad.
He's awful. He's absolutely terrible. And you try and defend the guy, but you can't. And he's to be fair, he's never been a good second half pitcher, but he was injured for so much of the first half. You would have thought he would have been average in the second half. And as usual, he's playing to his career norms and not doing that.
Yeah. I mean, it was, they were down in the first inning when we were there. Like it was just, there's just no chance. And then, so they come into this week, a big week, big next few weeks, really, to the end of the season with a 7-game lead over Atlanta for the division. It was a good week last week. Yeah, and I was there with Karen and my parents on Saturday for the win, so got back to winning ways at least.
There you go. Although I still feel bad for your dad that every time you take him to a Dodgers game, the Phillies somehow managed to win that. I like your dad. I feel so bad for the guy.
Well, and it's funny. Like he says, he's like, I can't watch the Dodgers whenever they're on TV, and he's like, I just can't watch them because they always lose when I watch them. So, but mom will put the Phillies game on regardless of who they're playing. So dad, whenever they play Philly, has no choice but to watch the Phillies games, and he watched the games for that series, and Philly swept the Dodgers out of Philadelphia, and he did not watch one of the 3 games the other week in LA, and the Phils won 2 out of the 3. Guess which one the Dodgers actually won? The one that he didn't watch. So
he might be onto something.
So yeah, but no. So the 4 of us were there on Saturday. It was a good time, and the Phils ended up winning. So he was happy with that. He was like, "This was a time I could actually be happy for the Phillies to win." So,
he doesn't have to be happy when the Phillies win. I'm never happy when the Phillies win.
Well, the thing is, the poor guy next year. I have the Dodgers game again for my season ticket plan. It's on his birthday.
Oh no, he has to go.
so he'll be seeing the Dodgers and Phillies on his birthday with me next year. So we'll see if it's a happy birthday for him or not. But
I don't know, man. That's tough. Oh, that's kind of brutal. Not gonna lie. All right, let's move on from the Phillies here. A couple milestones this past week, and let me know if I missed any. I saw Charlie Morton got to 2,000 strikeouts. It took him until his 40s, but damn it, he made it. So good job to Uncle Charlie. Aaron Judge at home run number 300. He is the youngest player to reach that milestone and the only player to do it in fewer than 1,000 games played. I know Judge has had some injury issues, but damn, when he's on, he's really good.
Yeah, and those were the two big milestones that I had as well.
Okay. All right. Moving it on to Atlanta. We when we talked about hot teams last week, Jason, we mentioned most of the top of the NL West last week because last week the NL West was on absolute fire. And I'm not going to lie, I was really nervous with the number of consecutive games Atlanta had to play, but two, to go into San Francisco as hot as they were. And Atlanta not only took 3 out of 4, but 2 of those wins were one-run games. And so they lost the fourth game after there was a hilarious 13-2 blowout in Game 3. So that was a huge week. Atlanta absolutely needed that because San Fran has been playing damn good baseball as of late. So it was good to see that. And then they managed to take 2 out of 3 in Anaheim when the Braves players got to reunite with Wash. That was so cool to see the players and Wash interacting before games. He was such a cornerstone coach in Atlanta.
Yeah.
The players just loved him. Everywhere that man's been, players just gravitate to him because he is just such a good coach, even a good manager. I know Anaheim's not playing great this year, but he's a good manager regardless. I mean, you can only do so much with a roster like that, and the fact that they're at 53-72, that's really not as bad as we thought they could have been when we did the preseason predictions this year. So it's good to see Wash. He's starting to work his system out there, and I think they will turn around as long as management will actually commit to restocking the farm system, which they've needed to do for years. And, just go after free agents and stop trading away your best prospects on these one-off guys. If they do that franchise is in a good position to turn around.
Yeah.
And I also saw an absolutely hilarious meme somebody put up on Tomahawk Talk, which I shared in the chat. Ron Washington stopped by Angel Security trying to sneak back onto Atlanta plane going back. I thought that was great. Of course, Wash wouldn't do that. He's a loyal guy through and through. But boy, I wouldn't mind his defensive drills sometimes because he's the reason I think Dansby Swanson turned into a Gold Glove caliber shortstop because of the drills that he just worked them through all of spring training, all the regular. Like you might get a day off playing, you don't get a day off infield drills with Wash. When he's coach, everybody does infield unless you're hurt. So it shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm happy, man. We played 7 games last week and we went 5-2. Other than Riley getting hurt, I really can't complain too much. That's going to hurt though, because we picked up. Who was that earlier today? It was Urshela. Atlanta picked up Urshela because let's face it, there's not a whole hell of a lot in the free agency market right now, and. You know what? We could have made a worse choice. He's not going to have Riley's power, but he at least hits mid 240s, mid 250s. So if he can at least get on base, I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, moving into the hot list. Hot hitter for me this week is going to be Daron Blanco of the Kansas City Royals. He only had 9 at-bats, but boy, talk about doing the most with limited at-bats. 556, 1.556 slash line, 5 hits, 5 runs, 3 homers, 8 RBIs, a stolen base, no walks, and 3 strikeouts. Like I said, he didn't have a lot of opportunity, but boy, that's how you make it. That's how you turn a little opportunity into big game. Because what a week!
Yeah.
Who's your hitter this week, Jason?
Well, I'll say, speaking of having a hot week, Masataka Yoshida of the Red Sox. His slash line was 632, 720, 1.053, 1.753, 2 homers, 2 doubles, and 6 RBI. Yeah, 632 last week.
Oh my God. It's really nice the Red Sox can DH him and get him out of the outfield because he's a terrible fielder.
Oh yeah.
Ooh. All right, and then filling in for Joe, my Moneyball hitter this week is Xavier Edwards of Miami. Slash line 273, 407, 364, 22 at bat, 6 hits, 2 doubles, 2 RBIs, 5 stolen bases, 5 walks to only 1 strikeout. So good job getting on base, even if it wasn't always with a base hit.
Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to open any wounds with that one. I don't know if he did anything against the Phillies or not.
He had a good game. I don't think he didn't do anything the night that we were there.
Okay.
So,
to be fair though, Miami's roster is so unrecognizable right now. It's real easy to do that.
Yeah.
All right. My top pitcher this week was Michael King out of the Padres. 2-0, 12 innings, 11 hits, 3 walks, 16 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, a 1.5 ERA, and a 1.17 whip. Not too terrible.
No, that's solid.
What do you got?
I have Gavin Stone of the Dodgers. 2 games started, went 1-0, 12 innings, 0.75 ERA, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 2 walks, and 16 strikeouts, and a 0.58 whip.
Holy shit.
Yeah, he had a good week.
I'd say so. All right, and the adulting reliever of the week, Joe, I am so sorry that I have to do this with a Brewers player, but there was no choice. Devin Williams last week, 3 innings, 3 for 3 in save opportunities, and 3 strikeouts to boot. ERA of 0, a whip of 0, as he didn't walk a batter last week. So that is your adulting reliever this week. Moving into the teams, I hate to say Atlanta because I feel like I'm going to jinx them, but I can't. It's hard to argue the 5-2 week, so I'm going to throw Atlanta up there. Milwaukee has been hot as hell. Again, when you have a closer who goes 3 for 3 in saves, it's really hard to argue with that. I'm going to keep the top half of the NL West in there. I'm obviously not San Francisco, but LA, San Diego, Arizona. They continue to play great ball. They're still 7-3 over the last 10, all 3 of them. And I also wanted to toss up, and again, not trying to rub salt into future wounds coming up, Jason, but the Royals are hot as hell right now. 5-game winning streak, 7-3 in the last 10. The Astros are hot right now, 2-9 and 1 in 3 straight. So, the Astros can calm that down because baseball is not happy when the Astros do well, but you can't argue with the results right now. That's damn good baseball.
Yeah.
You have anybody else?
No, I was looking through the list, and those are all the teams that stood out to me. There are 2 teams that I would throw on this list as well. I have the Tigers, who are 6-4 in their last 10, 2-game winning streak. They've actually brought their run differential back to just -3, so they're almost at the positives.
That's impressive, actually. They were way down for a while.
Yeah. And then I also have the Athletics on here, 7-3 in their last 10.
Okay. Yeah, they've been playing decent ball as of late. I mean, that's a team that, again, it's kind of like the Nationals. Their window's a little farther out than the Nationals is, but it's starting to appear on the horizon as these young guys come up that they've been trading in and receiving over the last 3-4 years. So future's looking bright. It's just a pity that it's not going to be out in Oakland. It'll be in other places. I feel for the fans out there, what the ownership has done to that team, and that's awful, just terrible.
Yeah.
And also in the not hot teams list, of course, we will leave the White Sox, even with that 10-run win over the Yankees, their run differential of the season still sits at -260.
Jeez.
-260. That's damn. They're one of what? Actually, that's wild. They are not the team that's given up the most runs this year. That's the Rockies at 731, but at least they've hit 534 runs.
Yeah.
Yikes. All right. So looking at the upcoming week, obviously tonight, Braves and Phillies are going right now. Lopez Wheeler. Did that game go final yet?
Not yet. Top of the 9th, Braves are up 3-1. Okay. You had Ozuna with a solo shot to make it 2-1. And then the 9th, Jose Alvarado went 2/3 of an inning with 34 pitches, 14 of which were strikes. And they ended up walking in a run to make it 3-1.
Why did they leave him out there that long?
Oh, they took him out, and then the person that came in, like Lazar, who I had no idea they even had a Lazar on the roster. He then came in and promptly walked a batter with the bases loaded to walk in a run.
Sounds
so, right. Yeah. So they're back to being the Phillies of the post All-Star break. It looks, which is fan-fucking-tastic.
Tomorrow night, great pitching matchup: Max Fried and Aaron Nola, and then on Thursday. Today's Tuesday. This is so screwy doing this on a Tuesday. I'm completely confuddled. Thursday's matchup is Schwellenbach versus Sanchez. It's going to be a good pitching matchup all week for this series. So I'm excited to see it. Atlanta finishes the week at home with the Nationals. Sale versus Gore, Morton versus Irvin, Lopez versus Hers. The Phillies will finish the week on the road in Kansas City. Walker versus Waka, TBD versus Singer, and Wheeler versus Lugo. This is a rough week, dude.
Did you just say Singer versus Lugo?
No, Wheeler versus Lugo. TBD versus Singer. No, Phillies didn't have a probable announced. I can confirm and make sure they didn't add somebody when I wasn't watching. But when I checked earlier, it was TBD.
Yeah, it's probably still going to be TBD.
Yeah, still TBD versus Singer on Saturday. So that'll be an interesting one. That's a big series.
Yeah, Ron has a good point there. Saturday does have potential to be Ranger.
Okay.
There were thoughts that he may be back for the weekend.
Okay. It would be good. The Phillies need Ranger back.
Mm-hmm.
Really bad. Cubbies this week: 3 versus the Tigers, Assad versus Fado, Tyone versus TBD, Hendricks versus TBD, and then 3 at the Marlins: Steele versus Meyer, Imananga versus Palazzo, and Assad versus Oler. I don't recognize most of this Marlins pitching staff at this point. Holy crap.
Mm-mm.
But at least the Cubbies should be able to play some pretty good ball this week. I like these matchups, especially when the Tigers don't know who they're even throwing for 2/3 of the matchup. So hopefully a good week for the Cubbies. I do hate seeing them getting beat down. I mean, not only for Joe, but my brother Alex is a huge Cubs fan, and he is I think if Alex was anywhere near Chicago, he'd be leading the charge to get Jed Hoyer fired by fans if necessary. So
yeah.
He's been notably displeased with Jed Hoyer's performance. I know, shocker, right? All right, Jason, anything else for you this week?
I don't think so. Yeah, enjoy the weeks, enjoy the games, and yeah, we'll just see y'all next week.
Audio is going to be on Anchor, Spotify, Google Podcasts, since they still haven't taken that down yet, as well as Apple Podcasts and pretty much anywhere you can find podcasts. We're live at YouTube and Facebook. Merchandise is at redbubble.com. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/dollardogsandbeer. Twitter's at DDAB_podcast. All 4 of us are still on there. I'm at Pyrolord314. Jason's at JRicker300. Joe's at Jolton Joe35. Ron's at Tipner Ron. We're presented by Dark Arrow Podcast LLC and sponsored by Baron Barbershop over in Mannheim. Guys, may your dogs always cost $1. May your beer always be cold. We'll see you next week.